So we have a very special guest now on with us. Well, all of our guests are very special. And Franklin Graham is with us from, I'm assuming, well, I don't know where he is. He's been all over the 50 states, so
Right.
I was assuming he would be back home in North Carolina, but I don't know that for sure. Franklin really needs no introduction. He is the son of Billy Graham, and he is also has the Decision American Tour. Decision America, not American, Decision America Tour. That is all around the country asking Christians to pray at state capitals and just reminding them of the importance of voting. And Franklin joins us now. Franklin, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for being with us. I'm Tim with Ed. And are you at home there in North Carolina, or where are you?
No, I'm in North Carolina today, and so it's good to be with you guys.
Have you finished your 50-state tour yet?
We did. We finished that back about 3 weeks ago, where we went to all 50 state capitals, and we held a prayer meeting on those capitol steps, and thousands of people came to every capital to pray for their country. They didn't come to hear me. They came to stand there and pray. They stood in the snow. They stood in pouring rain. They stood in blistering heat. They came to pray. And at the same time, I gave an invitation. I preached a 3-minute gospel message, and we had thousands of people this year come to faith in Christ on those Capitol steps. So I'm glad I did it. It's probably one of I think one of the most exhilarating things I've ever been a part of.
Franklin, Ed Vitagliano here, and we do appreciate, and we covered that 50-state tour, all those state capitals. That is the kind of event. I suppose some Christians go to church just as, under a sense of obligation, not all, but some. But an event like that, where, as you described it, the conditions weren't always favorable, and sometimes blistering heat or rain or even snow, because this took a long time for you to work through all 50 states. But when you say it was exhilarating, it must have been a great encouragement to see Christians come out, not out of any sense of obligation, but out of a sense of maybe mourning for our country, a desire to see our country return to God and to return to righteousness. Tell us a little bit more about the kinds of people you met and the passion that you saw in the lives of these Christians who showed up.
They came by the thousands, and they came to pray because they realized our nation is in trouble. The Democratic Party cannot save it. The Republican Party cannot save it. Only God can turn this country around, but God uses people. And we have an opportunity to vote. And as Christians, we are citizens of the United States of America, and we have a chance to vote. Paul, when he was accused, he appealed to Caesar. As a Roman citizen, he exercised his right as a Roman citizen. And we, as Americans that are Christians, we have a right. And we can exercise those rights of our citizenship, and that's to be involved in vote. We have an opportunity to choose the leadership. And when I say the leadership, I'm not just talking about the presidential leader. I'm talking about Congress. We have an opportunity to elect judges. We have an opportunity to elect people on our school boards, our mayors, city council. We need to vote for Christians, and we need to get Christians to run for office. And as part of my message was to encourage the church for Christians to run, for pastors to get involved, and look for people in their community that would be a good mayor, someone good on the school board, and get behind and organize and become community organizers. President Obama in his early life was a community organizer. We need Christians across this country who are community organizers, who are out helping Christians to run for office and getting behind those Christians, financing them, and then working for them to get them elected. Because if we don't, we're going to lose this country. This is probably the most important election in my lifetime. I'm 64 years old. Well, and we're on the precipice of losing the United States of America, and we'd better get out there and vote. That 38 million, I'm telling you, don't stay home, and don't let someone try to tell you that your vote doesn't count, and don't try to let someone tell you that you don't like those candidates, so you're going to stay home and as a protest. Listen, both of these candidates are flawed, both of them. But we're not voting for our pastor. We're voting for somebody who's going to be appointed the next Supreme Court justices. This election is not about Hillary's lost emails, and it's not about Donald Trump's potty mouth. This election is about the Supreme Court. and the next president is going to be nominating in February a Supreme Court justice, and possibly the next president could be doing 3 to 5 justices. And this is a most critical point, I think, of this election. So you need to decide who you think is going to appoint the best justices. Either it's Hillary or it's going to be Donald Trump. It's not going to be anybody else. It's going to be one of the two. And I'm not telling people how to vote, but just use your own common sense and figure this out for yourself.
Well, Franklin, this is Rob Chambers with AFA Action. You brought up a good point about the judges, and people don't really realize that the judges typically will serve life terms once they get appointed to the bench. Is that correct?
Absolutely, it's a life term.
Right,
and so this for I'm 64 years old. I've got 11 grandchildren.
Right.
This next president, the judges that this next president is going to appoint is going to affect my grandchildren's life and probably their children.
And so this is
for the
just
next
not
50 years.
This is just not even restricted to the Supreme Court. So the president will appoint federal judges as well. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you're listening. Go ahead. Go ahead,
No,
Franklin.
I just think we need to pray, guys, because Christians need to pray but they need to go vote. And just ask God who you should vote for and then go do it. Listen, both of these candidates are flawed. They're not perfect. But one has laid out what kind of judges they're going to appoint. One has said that they're going to defend American around the world and going to support and defend the church and Christians around the world. So, just examine who these people are that around the world who are our enemies and who's going to defend us against them. And let's get out there and vote. Again, it's not a perfect world. We don't live in that. When Jesus Christ comes back and he establishes his throne on this earth, then we're going to have a perfect world. But we're not there yet. But until then, we got a job to do.
Yeah.
And let's try to preserve the freedom that we have in this country as long as we can.
Yeah, there's only one America, and there's nowhere else to sail to and start over. So, this is it for us, folks, and we need to do everything we can to defend our freedoms, as Franklin Graham has just said, and to elect people that reflect biblical values as close as possible as we can get to that. We're talking to Franklin Graham. You're listening to American Family Radio. We're broadcasting live all over the country on 190 stations, I believe it is, or maybe more. And we're also on the internet right now, broadcasting live. Where would that, Ed, where would that be?
Well, they have a live video feed at afaaction.net and then afr.net. They can stream the audio for this program.
Franklin Graham is with us for about 5. You got 5 more minutes, Franklin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to ask you, we were talking, you were making reference to Donald Trump and to Hillary Clinton. Obviously, one of those two people will be the president of the United States for the next 4 years at least. When you have a situation like we're faced with, and this isn't maybe the first time that we've been faced with this, and that is to say, but both of these people have character flaws, as we've noted. But on the issues that Christians look at, you mentioned voting on the issues. You talked about the Supreme Court. I want to take one of the biggest issues. Now, Christians, although we're often accused of being single issue voters, I don't think that's true. I think that's a mischaracterization of Christians. Christians care about a lot of different issues, but certainly the life issue is right at the top of things that we look at, we care about, because we're talking about innocent unborn babies who are killed through abortion. Now, and what we're about to talk about is on the record. We're not making anything up about any of the candidates, one of them and parties. Mr. Trump, the other day at the debate, said that he will appoint pro-life judges. He went on the record as saying that. Mrs. Clinton said that she believes in abortion through the full 9 months of pregnancy. Now that's a ocean of difference between those two people and where they stand on the life issue. So comment on that, if you would.
Well, first of all, I think for some Christians who say, well, I'm not going to vote, I'm just telling you, please reconsider that, because this is the most important election of our lifetime. We have a chance to get pro-life judges for which could change this country. We have an opportunity to have leadership that's going to protect Christians. This is huge. There's no question here as the right way to go. There's only 2 choices. Well, you actually have 4 choices with your vote. but there's only two of the presidential candidates going to win, and it's either Hillary or it's going to be Donald Trump. And you just have to pray and decide. Again, I don't tell people how to vote. They can figure it out. But I'm just wanting you to look at the facts and look at the truth here. The media wants to deceive you. The media wants you to think this is about some vulgar things that Donald Trump said some 11 years ago. Or they want you to think it's about missing emails, and this is played in the media all day long. This is not what this election is about. It's about the Supreme Court. And they don't want to talk about that because they don't want you to consider the facts here. They want you to be, off track, off message, thinking about these other issues. But it's the Supreme Court. That's the battle right now in this country, is for the Supreme Court, because it's the soul of this nation. And this country will turn however the court turns.
Franklin, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your leadership on this issue and the Decision America tour. I know that you don't care about frequent bus miles anymore. you got all you want, but we appreciate it very much. And American Family Radio was grateful and honored to be able to partner with you on this.
Well, thank you, guys. Appreciate all you do.
Okay, bye-bye. Franklin Graham joining us from North Carolina.
Yeah, that's a man. I just am proud of Franklin Graham. I'll just say that. I mean, he has not shied away from the contentious issues that cause a lot of debates, even with amongst Christians. But
he could if he
certainly
wanted
with the
to.
culture, he's absolutely could have. He is president of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association and Samaritan's Purse. He's probably got a full plate. He did not have to jump into into the culture war, because not only does it take a lot of time, you take a tremendous amount of heat, as we all know here. And yet he has not only jumped in, but he has boldly spoken God's truth on these issues.
Yeah, nobody's going to hound you for feeding poor people in
Right.
Africa,
Right.
which is what the Samaritan art.
Everybody will pat you on the back for that, won't they?
Yeah, everybody will, and certainly Christians should be doing that, and he's led
Yes.
the way on that. That isn't the only thing that Samaritan's Purse does, but I mean that's what they're known for, sort of humanitarian.
Well, he's led by example in North Carolina. There's certainly statistical information coming out just as recent as today, showing the great number of turnout in early voting in North Carolina, which early
It's
voting
his home state.
His home state of Billy Graham's, Franklin Graham's home state there. Basically, early voting ends November 5th for North Carolina, and so there's been a significant uptick in early voting in North Carolina. So,
Which is a swing state. My point about that is that Franklin Graham decided to spend a lot of his capital on standing up for biblical righteousness in the culture, and that's when you start taking the shots from the secular left in this country.
Right.
And he's taken them and fired back.
Yeah.
So good for him. Good for Franklin Graham, and God bless him on his 50-state tour that he finished with. He went to all 50 states, and he led prayer events at state capitol meetings. I know many of you went to those.